Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second update of my podcast, would you call it? It's now Friday, the 1st of May. Quite a bit's happened behind the scenes since we last updated you, particularly around finance. As you can imagine, it was quite an important topic at the time, and it's still an important topic. Since we last spoke, the government loan has been approved, thankfully, to get that out of the way. That we're going to need that to get us through probably till around September time. Without that, we would have been on a sticky wicket. Other financial aspects, of course, the appeal donation is still moving along quite briskly, and thankfully. I want to thank Pete Waterman for doing the video and being very supportive of what we're trying to do. I know his short video has had over 1,600 viewings. Getting tongue-tied there. So hopefully some of those people will go on from the video to push the button and make one of those precious donations. Other elements of the finance, of course, is when we'll be able to return to normal. I mean, I guess we're all waiting and watching for the announcement next week when the Prime Minister will be giving us more information. Although there's a pretty strong clue that ourselves, who are within the hospitality sector, will probably be one of the last sectors to get back to some kind of normality. And even then, to what extent will the public have confidence to come back and see and enjoy a ride or a pint in one of our pubs? So we're just on a wait and see. Having said that, there's still things to do on the railway, and I'm grateful for all those volunteers who are walking, checking on stations and obviously checking on security. There's been a bit of trespass down at Buckley Wells. Nothing too serious, but it's worrying that you get these little drips of bad behaviour, if I could put it that way, a bit of graffiti here or a bit of trespass there. I also want to thank the volunteers who've been authorised to walk along the line and check on things, and one or two to the north of the line have had abuse from people who are trespassing effectively, and that's sad to hear and sad to see that people will not accept the fact that they shouldn't be there, but that is something hopefully doesn't get out of hand, and we hopefully the messages out from Lancashire Police, which we're grateful for, have been very helpful to warn people that it is private property and they shouldn't be walking along the line. In terms of furlough, we've yet to receive our first furlough money. There was a lot of bureaucracy attached to getting into the system. I'm sure HMRC are doing their best. I mean, there'll be millions and millions of furloughed employees making applications on behalf of their companies. We're through the gate now. I meant millions of employers, not employees, but we're through the gate now. We can expect our first payment later on next week, and clearly that's going to help to keep a lid on the size of the loan, the use of the loan, until such time as we know roughly where we are. I've had a couple of questions from volunteers who are saying that their competencies have run out, and I think that's perfectly understandable. Those of you who know Rory Lushman, who's looking after our HOPS software program, which has got all the records of all our working volunteers, both safety critical and non-safety critical. So we know roughly where everybody is and what their current competency status is. And for us as a railway, clearly safety is paramount. Safety for our working volunteers, safety for our visitors, and so on. There'll be time enough for when we plan to reopen, when we get the chance, to make sure that there's enough working volunteers within competencies. Those without, there'll be plans for them to be brought into being fully ticketed again. So I would ask volunteers just to be patient as we work through that. There'll be, at some point, a clear recovery plan for Tracy, our general manager, to plot out how we're going to reopen, when, and what will reopening look like. The other one is training. Clearly, training is an ongoing procedure. And again, once we get looking into a recovery plan, a restart plan, that'll be factored in as well. There's a lot of speculation as to what our railway can actually handle when we get out of lockdown. And I think that will depend on what the advice or the instructions from government are at that time. If you look around different parts of Europe who are easing lockdown, it's very limited, very controlled, and I suspect no mass gatherings this side of August. That's very clear from most of the governments who are coming out of lockdown. And we're essentially a people organisation, and if you're sitting in a pub, you're sitting on a train, you're in close proximity to your fellow visitor. And for us, we may have to look at what does social distancing look like? Will we be able to run normally, or will we have to, as some predict, to come up with some different arrangements for people to come to our railway and feel they're safe, and they are actually safe. And that includes our staff and our working volunteers. So there's a bit to go yet. It's still perhaps a bit early for us to be able to say what's going to happen, other than when it does happen, we'll have to make plans that's in line with government advice or government instructions. So for us at the moment, it's just watching, waiting, and observing. As far as the future, next couple of weeks is concerned, we're probably still planning another appeal, a new appeal, to refresh the message, to keep the momentum going. Over 800 donations so far. Everyone very, very welcome. Every pound very, very helpful in keeping down the potential for us to have a big loan, keeping down the demand for refunds and vouchers, and obviously paying suppliers. Every pound helps us to deal with that. So for the next couple of weeks, as a board, we met last night, the 30th of April, just to update the board members as to where we are. So I'm now giving you an update following that board meeting last night. We've looked at lots of different financial scenarios for the rest of the year, examining the impact as to whether we are able to run services later in the year, most notably, of course, Halloween and Santa specials. We've looked at the impact of no more running this year on the finances. And as you would expect, we've looked at scenarios for 2021 where we've assessed various capacity running, etc. It's far too early, of course, to be able to share any of that. It's just myself and the board, along with the general manager and her team, just to perhaps be aware of some of those challenges that lay ahead for us. And be in no doubt, the rest of this year and 2021 is going to be an almighty challenge for everybody concerned about the future of the East Lancs Railway. We'll do our best. I know you guys will do your best when you finally get back into the railway, but it's going to be probably one of our biggest challenges in its 33 year history. But I'm sure, as ever, we'll all rise to that challenge. We'll all give it everything we've got. And as we seem to have gone past the peak, as our Prime Minister told us yesterday, then keep the faith. Believe in what we want is our railway back. If we've got that passion, that drive and that energy, then I believe we will see the ELR back at some point in the near future, where we can start to influence and drive forward hard on those areas where we've been denied in the last few months. So best wishes to everybody. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.